The phrase is familiar from Field of Dreams, but what if it is already built and the dream seems far beyond anyone's reach?
It has been a process. Just getting to know those people and working with them was just amazing.
I never questioned whether or not we could do it. I knew we could do it. I don't think any of us, once we got started, doubted that it would ever happen.
Having this museum as a community, as a town, it will really lift it up to, on the global platform.
In my wildest dreams, I had no idea that during my life that I would lead a new art museum.
Built in 1926, the Sarasota High School has stood as a prominent part of Sarasota's history for nearly a century. The original collegiate Gothic structure was designed by M. Leo Elliott, with an additional mid-century building added in 1959 by architect Paul Rudolph. Classes were held until 1996, when students were moved to the current high school, located just behind the original building. The beautiful building remained vacant, with little to no attention given to maintenance or repair. And after years of neglect, there was talk of demolishing this Sarasota icon. That was until a small group of people had a grandiose idea.
In the beginning, I was just helping out, and then I would say after a year, I was really drawn into the inner circle because I really connected with the people, with Lois and Wendy and Peppy.
Liz and David Crideneer became close friends of Dick's and mine. And one night, I just said, David, we're going to do something about this. And Dick and I conferred and came up with a quasi plan as to how to move ahead with it.
Saving the building. I mean, that was the first thing. I can't say that a driving force was the idea of the museum or the idea of the continual learning center that Ringling is going to put here, but saving the building universally was very important to everybody.
Saving the building was important to everybody, but there was a bigger purpose percolating in the minds of some very creative people. What if Sarasota had its own contemporary art museum? And from that, the idea for the Sarasota Museum of Art, or SMOA as it was called among the group, was born.
SMOA originated with a grassroots group. It was a twinkle in our eyes. There were 13 people in 2003. We sat around a circle in Dick Dickinson's photography studio, or we sat around the conference room in Mark Kaufman's office. We were 13 and we grew to 19 totally committed, incredible board members.
The potential that the building had and realizing that many buildings have been repurposed for secondary uses and combined older styles with modern styles and have worked beautifully. And I think when we started really looking at it, we began to see the potential for it. It was not an immediate acceptance. It was a slow process, but in hindsight, it was absolutely the best idea.
I think all of us now see not just the pragmatic aspect of this, but the aesthetic merger of this wonderful structure with all of its history and its architectural strengths and what we're going to be doing with a modern art museum. It's really an exciting marriage.
But the group was barely at the proposal stage. The school board owned the building, which needed massive repairs and renovations. The idea was only the beginning.
As time passed, it became a real challenge for the school district in that to really renovate that building with air conditioning and technology that really is required for an educational space, particularly at the high school level, that it was cost prohibitive. And so there were ideas that were thrown about, and they had a day where they really presented to a group from the school district, and it was very clear from the beginning that the Ringling College of Arts and Design, the vision of Larry Thompson, was the one that really could be supported, not only from the community, but from the school district as well.
For several members of the original group, saving the historical high school was about more than preserving history. It was very personal.
For me, as a graduate of Sarasota High School and having had classes in this very building, it's a thrill to see it be brought back to life in a new incarnation. It's always been the fear of people like myself, graduates of the high school, that the building would eventually be torn down. And to been able to play a part in its rejuvenation and its reincarnation as an art museum and as a continuing studies project, it's great.
The very first time I walked into the building was through the south entrance here, which was the entrance that basically all the students used, because we split our time between what was called the old building and the new area, which is the rest of Sarasota High School. I had two teachers that have stuck with me forever, Mrs. Rapolsky and Mrs. Deal, affectionately referred to as Mama Deal. And their classrooms were the first ones. You come in the door and you go to the right, and they're where the auditorium is actually going to be when the building is completed. The smell of the building brought back all the memories of walking in knowing that you're not prepared for Mrs. Rapolsky's class. The terror came back, 35 years later, I'm still terrified of Mrs. Rapolsky.
And the memories continued to come back.
We're in the principal's office. Fortunately, a place that I didn't go to very often, but it was the office you had to go to every once in a while, so it's fun.
For nearly 20 years, there has been a consortium of supporters, from teachers and graduates of Sarasota High to all who believed in the preservation of the building. The founders in Ringling College, who had the vision to bring a contemporary art museum to Sarasota, and the community, residents, visitors, school children, all who will benefit from its existence. The past, present, and future is inextricably linked.
For me, being such an integral part of Sarasota, having been born here, having gone to this school, having had an intimate relationship with the Sarasota art world of the past, Sarasota's own visual arts legacy is important to me.
So we have a building and a dream. Let the hard work begin.
Mark Kaufman, who's one of the volunteers, called me up and said, "Give me 30 minutes of your time and don't kick me out of your office."
What makes a group of volunteers come together with a shared dream and then see their vision through the highs and lows, ups and downs for over a decade? Passion, belief, grit, and above all else, unwavering devotion.
For 11 years, beginning in 2003, thousands of people, many of them in this building, heard me say, "My name is Wendy Serkis. I am the president of the Sarasota Museum of Art." In my wildest dreams, I had no idea that during my life that I would lead a new art museum.
So we knew we needed a point person, and Bob Garner actually had met Wendy before, had seen some of what she had done, and realized that she could potentially take this.
It has been a process, and most of the people I served on the board with were new to me. Just getting to know those people and working with them and the energy behind them, and particularly Wendy Serkis, I just can't say enough about her and what she did for the project. The little Energizer Bunny and her vision, along with all the other originals, was just amazing.
The vision was undeniable, but the founders had an unfathomable job in front of them. They needed to find and coordinate a location, and that would only be the beginning.
Well, when we first started having our community meetings, Larry Thompson showed up at every meeting and kind of sat in the back and listened and watched and kind of was feeling out, what is this project about? And actually at the same time, there was another group that was thinking about doing a museum, and along the same lines.
Again, because of the fact that it involved modern contemporary art, And so that's what really led me to want to at least look at what this group was doing.
While Dr. Thompson was interested in the founders' ideas, it still wasn't clear how they would accomplish their vision.
So when they came to talk to me, we didn't have any space at the college that something could be done. But then it was about, I don't know, maybe 6 months later, that Mark Kaufman, who's one of the volunteers, called me up and said, give me 30 minutes of your time and don't kick me out of your office. So I said, okay, you got 30 minutes and I won't kick you out of my office. He came in and he was the one that proposed that Ringling College of Art and Design and the museum go together to submit a proposal to the Sarasota County School Board involving taking over this historic building and turning it into a museum for 1/3 of the space, and the other 2/3 of the space be used for whatever it is that Ringling College wanted to do.
And he listened and listened, and he looked at me and he says, you know, the easy thing would be just say no, then it's over. But if I say yes, then we've got a big problem. He said, but it's just too great an idea to say no to. So he said, let's talk about it.
The whole then idea of the museum raising money for it and the college raising money for it made no sense. So that's when we merged together and the museum became part of the Ringling College of Art and Design. So after that point, we were in. We were married and we were not going to get a divorce.
To convince the existing board at the time, we took a trip to, I think it was Tallahassee or Jacksonville, where they had took an old factory and made it into a modern museum of art. And it sort of showed what could be done. And of course, the juxtaposition of the old and the new is just incredible.
Later on, they came to the Board of Trustees and asked if we would be willing to allow them to be a part of the college. I thought it was a great idea because we are an art college and an art museum would be a wonderful thing to have at an art college. I was so excited about that before I knew it, I was on the board or the committee for SMOA.
On October 19th, 2004, we were unanimously awarded this building for $1 a year for 99 years. Things were rolling. The momentum was really strong for us. It kept progressing, which was really, really very nice.
We just had faith in the fact that it was going to happen. When we came under the auspices of Ringling College and met with Larry Thompson, we were a group of people who really had no track record for making anything like this happen. And we realized that we needed some facility, person, organization that had been successful. And so we thought it would be a perfect fit, and it has been.
What we did, since we were awarded the building, we hired an owner's rep, a licensed architect, a Harvard grad with museum experience. He was guiding us through the physical plan of the building. He also created our first bubble drawings. We also hired a part-time Art Museum executive director with 25 years of experience.
The partnership of the founders and Ringling College was sealed. They now had a beautiful, historic building that needed a lot of tender loving care in order to transform it into an art museum. And that would require a lot of money. So years of intense fundraising began.
When we finally got organized and joined with Larry and the Ringling Art College, we started raising money and having actually monthly meetings to talk about this idea of having a contemporary art museum in Sarasota.
Here comes 2006 through 2008. There was a lot of activity. We launched an architectural design competition. We had jurors who were professionals in their field fly in to Sarasota and we selected a Sarasota firm. Another step forward. Board members and SMOA donors were hosting small gatherings at their homes.
This boots-on-the-ground approach was beginning to take hold. As the volunteers worked tirelessly, the donations started coming in.
One of the original people was willing to put forth a $100,000 challenge grant, and that $100,000 challenge was met that evening, which impressed us.
Over the ensuing years, there were many hosted evenings in people's homes, numerous artist exhibitions, and fundraisers to support the Art Museum. The volunteers pulled together to make it happen time and again.
My biggest accomplishment, and that which I'm most proud of, was co-chairing the first gala, which was extremely successful.
Dottie Garner and I hosted Bash, which was just a huge success and really our only fundraiser kind of event, which we did in a huge tent over to the side. And it was the original, just to get the community out to see what we were doing and what it was about. And I believe there were over 700 people here, and a band and all the Sarasota original restaurants.
It enabled the college to add, and SMOA, to add a lot of people to their database that would be future members of the museum. And it was a fabulous evening, not because of me, but because of the teamwork of everybody who was on the committee.
It was a feather in the cap for all of us, the whole board, everybody, but the fun that it generated and the excitement within the community was truly something I'll never forget.
But the fundraising reached far out into the community, encompassing a group long touched by history.
Throughout the years, we also hosted reunions. The Sarasota High School reunions were a big hit in this building. People came back, they had memories, their stories were really quite interesting. And we were also there to show them the virtual tour and tell them how this building was going to be transformed and how we were going to give it a rebirth.
My job was to herd the cattle that are the alumni of Sarasota High School. It was my opinion after talking to Wendy that because of the alumni spending so much time here and the formative years, their name needed to be on the building somewhere. So I talked to Wendy about what the naming opportunities were, and we settled on the auditorium. And so we had a $2.5 million raise, and through talking to a lot of the alumni, we raised it. And so the auditorium here will be named the SHS Alumni Auditorium.
To build a sense of what the museum could be, the group created the Art Muse program, bringing in renowned artists, names that attracted a lot of interest, and along with that interest, donations. And at times, it was all hands on deck.
Bob Ripley, who coordinated and organized hundreds of volunteers for us on this project. It took a lot of people to accomplish this. When I say people were foraging for crepe myrtle branches, they physically were working in the fields to cut the branches.
It seemed there was no stopping the momentum. This small, determined group with a big dream watched as their hard work was rewarded.
Here comes 2014. It was stupendous for SMOA. January 2014, Elaine Keating, a SMOA board member, steps forward with another major gift, $1 million match, dollar for dollar match. It was important for Elaine to help propel the fundraising for this project, and she stepped forward wholeheartedly and really wanted a rally to see it get completed. Her gift was the exact and perfect timing for us to really push the project to getting completed with the fundraising. All I could do was hug her. It was fantastic.
I've really enjoyed the ride of raising funds to start this big project. And it's been very rewarding to me.
Each time I announced how much money SMOA raised, I set it to the exact penny. It was absolutely important for how each gift made a difference. The people made a difference, the gifts made a difference. It was really important to the project.
I'm not sure this project would have happened without Ringling College because we came into this as a bunch of people who wanted to do an art museum but had no experience whatsoever, any of us, with what that involved. And fundraising, we didn't have much experience with fundraising. So Ringling College brought a bunch of expertise to us that we didn't have with the development department and how to raise money and how to go about different things that we were kind of clueless about. So they were a tremendous guiding light for us in that way.
Even through the rough times, the group never lost faith.
I never questioned whether or not we could do it. I knew we could do it. I think Sarasota is the kind of town where amazing things happen. And once we started, the ball just kept rolling. And we went through some tough terrain. 2008 wasn't exactly a walk in the park, and that was right in the middle of our fundraising efforts. But I don't know. I don't think any of us, once we got started, doubted that it would ever happen.
Thanks to our SMOA founding board member, David Cardinaire, who initiated the ideas. That idea, we started that off. My naivete about what it would take to fulfill this goal was also a factor. The dogged determination of the SMOA board was important, the support from Ringling College, and the community of believers, people who believed in me and believed in bringing SMOA to life, was very important. I'm extremely grateful to that.
I think we had great community support from the very beginning. We did some community meetings to see if there was going to be some support for it, and the rooms filled up with people who were interested in the project and from all over different walks of life in Sarasota. And I think seeing that response from the community just kind of helped us to be even more committed to making it happen.
I refer to those people as the SMOA family. They really became my family. And yes, we did it. We did it. Raised $22,531,033.04. In a word, fantastic.
Wow, that's what this is about. It's education and showing people what art can do for you and how art is created.
The founders worked so hard to get us to our campaign goal, and we did that in 2014. And after that, we were given the Paul Rudolph building, which allowed a redesign, and with that came extra expenses and costs that would be incurred. And people continued to give even after that goal was met. So we're really grateful for people who gave again, for new donors who stepped up and got involved, and for all of them, from the very first donors to the ones who are still giving today to make the Sarasota Art Museum project and the whole Ringling College Museum campus a reality.
While it was hard work over a number of years, the founders were bound together by their common goal to bring a new contemporary art museum to Sarasota. The shared belief that this could happen kept the spark alive.
In all cities with educated people, they need a modern art exhibition space. It makes a person grow in being tolerant of new, exciting, questionable ideas. And this is, of course, becoming a visual world. We learn visually now, and we learn from the things that we didn't know before.
It can make them more worldly. It can introduce them to other lifestyles, other ways of thinking. It's not just cultural, it's educational. And that's what I believe this project will really be all about one day.
The idea of combining art and education. And I really think that's a very exciting thing. Instead of just going into a museum and standing around and looking at artwork and then going and reading about it, I think the whole concept of a more involved museum that's involved with education as well as seeing the art, I think that's very exciting, and that would be my vision for it. I think having school kids in the community come in here and learn about art and begin to understand what art's about and why it can impact their lives and how they can express themselves through art. I think that combination of education and museum experience will be invaluable.
Art can enlighten people and inspire change. The founders knew their vision was destined to be more than just a contemporary art museum.
To me, one of the most inspiring moments of this whole process was when we had our first Art Muse project, which Lois Stolberg came up with this idea of bringing artists in to talk about what they do and show how they do it.
We started the Art Muse program, and that was bringing artists, that had some recognition into the fold. They would give a talk, or they would do a demonstration of their art. They would speak to the students. We would have an open forum for the community. And it just kept people interested in the fact that we were going to have an art museum with all the services, educational as well as art.
The productions we did with Art Muse were incredibly stimulating, certainly for our core group, but for a much broader group of Sarasota.
They would create art here or bring in art that they had just done. Are you aware of when Lisa Hoke came? She was our final artist, and she took discarded cardboard, colorful discarded cardboard, and mounted it on walls to create the most amazing, colorful installation you've ever seen. And the community got involved because we went to the community and asked them to save discarded colorful cardboard. And for me personally, it was a thrill to work with an established artist.
Now, when I say these artists were stars, no exaggeration here, because I'm going to give you an example. Janet Eckelman, who was here, the next year after the SMOA program, she was selected by Oprah as her #1 wow artist. And just to give you a sense of what Janet does, Janet, the #1, creates monumental size netted sculptures throughout the country. She works globally, she works domestically, and she creates these in cities that really bring communities together.
Judy Pfaff was a printmaker, and I just thought it was fantastic to kind of get inside the mind of the artist and see what she was thinking and why she was doing it this way, and then also to see the technique and the complicated process that she had to go through to make that vision become a work of art. And I think I left that thinking, wow, that's what this is about. It's education and showing people what art can do for you and how art is created. I thought that was one of the most exciting things I'd ever been to.
Patrick Doherty. Patrick Doherty created a stickwork sculpture on the front lawn of this building, which was going to be the future home of SMOA. This project was really done by volunteers. Volunteers foraged for the crepe myrtle materials. Volunteers helped build this sculpture alongside with Patrick Doherty.
Though the Art Muse program began as a means to raise money, it quickly became something much greater. The community was responding better than anyone could have imagined, and the volunteers knew they were onto something.
I look forward to it being a hub of great activity, interest, and academic and artistic stimulation.
People would drive by this building so excited. They would honk, they would smile. You could really sense how happy they were to have this addition to the community. Once the project was completed, people would park on the premises and come and walk through the stickwork sculpture and really enjoy it. Kids would giggle, adults would be really looking mysteriously, how did this get done?
Through these amazing exhibitions, people started to see how exciting the museum would be. But the relationship with Ringling College was equally impactful.
The fact that the museum will be housed in this beautiful, repurposed high school, which I think is going to be architecturally very stimulating and beautiful, will also be an attraction to a lot of people who will want to see what has happened to the high school. And I look forward to it being a hub of great activity, interest, and academic and artistic stimulations.
There will be educational opportunities for every age. And as it turns out, there's going to be lifelong learning is going to be here. So I think it's going to really be a living building. And maybe people that come to take classes will find their way into the Art Museum and become as excited as I am about contemporary art.
I think it's going to be big because of the dual use of the building. Continuing education and the South Campus idea of Ringling College is big because Ringling already is such a big part of our community and growing. So that's going to draw attention.
Not only bring awareness to Ringling College, but it connects students to contemporary art and the community.
It was a way for people in the community to get to know about Ringling College and how really an amazing institution that we are, because people interested in modern contemporary art should be sort of interested in young people who are creating that kind of art. We are on our way to becoming the preeminent art and design college in the world. And my view is to have a preeminent art and design college, you really need an art museum to be a part of it, because that's how you become connected in the art world itself, is by having a world-class museum that shows that this institution really understands the importance of art and the importance of teaching art.
The Sarasota Art Museum can also connect the community to its local artists.
Well, I think we are filling a gap here because we don't have a presence of contemporary art, modern art, contemporary especially. There are so many artists, even in our town here, and of course in the college. But we need to educate the people of first of all understanding contemporary art. A lot of people don't, and if those who are willing, they don't have to travel far, so they can just come here and learn.
I'd like very much to see it a living place. People coming and going and looking at art and having education about art and just using the building. People can have lunch here or buy gifts in the gift shop. And I'm hoping that the students of the Ringling College students make use of it, because that's really what I'd love to see.
Well, I think the combination of being modern contemporary in this beautiful old high school will draw a lot of people, not just residents, but tourists, which will just enhance the cultural aspect of this city, which is very cultural to start with.
I think it's a wonderful win-win situation. And with Ringling College, this being the South Campus, I think we can't lose. I mean, it's just wonderful.
To have a full range of visual arts is critically important. People like contemporary art. It's an attraction. It will help create an environment where people want to come and live and view the art. So I really think it'll be a welcome addition to the community.
I think it will really lift it up to a completely different level internationally, art-wise. Having this museum as a community, as a town, it will really lift it up to, on the global, I would say, platform.
In December of 2019, everything the founders worked toward for more than a decade came to be. The Sarasota Art Museum officially opened its doors to the public.
I recently read an report by the American Alliance of Museums that estimated that museums across the country contribute $50 billion to the American economy every year. So I think the economic impact on this community is going to be far greater than many people realize. In fact, I think the whole project is going to be bigger and better and have more impact than most people realize.
As I recently had the opportunity to kind of walk through the space and was incredibly impressed with what it's going to be. And so that, that moment of realization that the dream has been achieved is something that's going to stay with me.
The dream and all it meant to each person was realized. The Sarasota Art Museum opened, and Ringling College Continuing Studies welcomes students to their new home.
Ringling College has done, as you can see, an absolutely wonderful job of converting the old Sarasota High School and maintaining the beauty of the building into a modern museum of contemporary art, as well as a school for lifelong learning.
OLLI is the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute, and it's a wonderful way where people can learn more about what interests them. They can learn from really well-educated and well-refined educators, as well as artists and practitioners.
This is a real treat. I've visited about 80 of the 124 at this point, and I'll tell you, this is an amazing facility. Pretty much the castle of all OLLIs is right here in Sarasota.
The Ringling College Museum campus, home to the Sarasota Art Museum and Ringling College Continuing Studies. Why is it so important to this community? To learn, to realize the value of art, education, and community. It's what this small but mighty group of founders knew long before anyone else.
All I could say was we did it. I was grateful and am grateful to each and every donor, each and every volunteer, each and every person who participated in this project. My gratitude is heartfelt, and I love all of them for it. All I can say, or what I would like to say, is that we did it, and we did it because of all of you and how you rallied. I thank them deeply and sincerely. We did it. We did it.